Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 22 of You Cannot Rewatch, the Evangelion Rewatch podcast. My name is David.
And my name is Dylan.
And, fuck this episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
not the episode of Evangelion. It's a great episode. We're going to get to that. Fuck this episode of our podcast. If you follow us on Twitter, you probably saw... If you don't follow us on Twitter, you might be wondering, why is this podcast late? It was supposed to come out last week. It didn't. Well, we recorded it last week, and I was going to release it last week until I went to start editing it, and my entire audio track was completely fucked. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Otherwise, I guess this doesn't matter. But we're going to have to re-record the episode. It was a really long episode. I think it was one of the best episodes we had
I
of this
agree.
podcast. So we got into a lot of the meat and potatoes of the show, and a lot of good thematical stuff, and all that's fucking gone. So we're gonna have to try to recreate that, which isn't gonna be as fun as.
Right, so if we sound very unenthused, that's most likely why.
Yeah, sorry. We're gonna try to bring it, but
Which sucks. I was super hyped after I watched the episode.
yeah, me too. I was really excited to talk about it, and then I had a great time talking about it, and now it's oh, we got to say literally the exact same stuff and be just as interesting again while saying the exact same stuff we just talked about.
Yep.
So, sorry everybody. Yeah, I guess let's try to get into it.
Cool.
So episode 22, if you're not familiar, if you can't remember, this is the episode where Asuka tries to fight an angel that is in orbit way, way, way above Tokyo 3, and it mind rapes her, is the term that's officially used on the Eva Geeks site, or Ava Geeks, or what the fuck ever, but so I guess that's the official term because it's used on that site. So yeah, it's that episode. Do you like it? I think this episode's really good. I really like this episode.
Me too. It's definitely in my top favorites for sure.
Yeah.
Well, director's cut one, not like the...
Yes, the director's cut. Yeah, we'll get to that. We watched the director's cut version. There's a lot of differences. We'll talk about that in just a second. I was just going to say... what was I going to say?
It's a good episode. You said it was a good episode.
This episode, oh yeah. The first time I watched the show, I really didn't appreciate this episode. I kind of skimmed over it because so much heavy shit just happened. There was so much info dump in the last one, and then the first time I watched the show, I was just kind of wanting to see how everything played out. And so, yeah, I didn't really pay attention to this episode the first time. Also, the first time I watched the show, I didn't like Asuka. No, I really like Asuka, and this episode's really all about her. So, if you don't like Asuka, this probably isn't a great episode for you. But if you like her character, it's a really good one. So the director's cut version versus the on-aired version has quite a few differences in this one. I think it's more major than in episode 21. Episode 21, the director's cut added some really awesome scenes that weren't in the original, but they weren't 100% necessary. They're great scenes.
Yeah, for sure.
You should definitely watch that version, but if you didn't see them, you'd still understand the episode and the characters for the most part. This one, you're fucked if you just watch the on-air version. You miss out on so much stuff. So if you haven't seen the director's cut version and you're watching this, you need to go watch that. You really do. You can find it online if you look. It's a little tough to find, but you can find it. It's so much better than the on-air version.
It's way better.
And it gives you so much more information about Asuka's character. There's, again, we said, during the scene where the angel is attacking her with its psychic beam or whatever, it's just going through all the things in her head and unraveling her entire psyche, and that's not in the on-air version. There's a ton of kind of psychedelic sequences of internal thoughts and memories and flashes from Asuka's past. None of that, pretty much. There's a tiny bit of that in the on-air version, but almost all that is cut, and that is a shame because that's
really
all
is, yeah.
really great.
It just makes it just seems so weird to even watch an episode like that with all this stuff in it.
Yeah.
It just makes this episode seem so pointless in a way.
Yeah, it does. I think without that, this episode is kind of pointless. Because, that's really what it's about. And really, we get to see that with Shinji quite a bit throughout the show. But this is the big time we see it with Asuka.
Right.
And that's what makes it so great. That's probably more why I didn't like Asuka much the first time I watched the show. I never really saw, this deeper, more complex side of her, Anyway, so the director's cut version opens up. One thing, the director's cut version actually does not have the opening in it, which I just thought was interesting. But it opens up with Asuka and Kaji. Asuka's trying to fuck Kaji.
Oh, yeah.
And Kaji's I'm not sure I can't remember how old Kaji is. He's at least twice her age. I think a good amount past twice her age.
Definitely.
So he's not going for it, which good on Kaji, because that'd be fucked up. But Asuka is I keep wanting to say, we talked about this before, but to the audience we didn't talk about this before. So that comment is kind of redundant. But anyways, a lot of Asuka is somebody who is, despite being 14, thinks she's much more mature than she is. Oh yeah, I should say this scene takes place I believe the night before we are introduced to Asuka in the show originally, on the ship and everything, in episode 8. I believe it's either the night before or very close to that date. It might be a couple nights before. I don't know. But anyways, Asuka, she thinks she's very, very mature because of the things that have happened to her in her past. She has really tried to rapidly mature herself even faster than she's ready to go. But honestly, I mean, a lot of girls at that age really feel much more mature than boys at their age, which would be understandable. I remember being a 14-year-old boy, and I guess I don't know if that much has changed. I was gonna say I was still laughing at stupid fart jokes and shit, but I was like, well, I kind of still do that sometimes. So
exactly.
But I think boys are more about let's just fuck around and not take things seriously when they're 14.
Right.
You're still just I don't know, watching cartoons and shit. I actually don't know if I watched cartoons when I was 14, but shit like that. And girls are in that age where they're feeling like an adult already, even though they're definitely not. They're feeling like they are. They're getting a little bit more freedom.
Yep.
They've gone through puberty, and they just feel more mature with all that.
Right. And they kind of just want to skip all that kid bullshit, just be done with it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they don't want to date guys their age. Guys their age are fucking stupid and whatever. And that's obviously how Asuka feels as well. I'm sure most of the boys are. Shinji's an exception because he's some weird example, but I think Toji and Kinsuke is more what most of the boys her age are like. Just fucking stupid idiots that are just goofy or whatever. And Asuka, she wants to date people and flirt with people that are at what she considers her maturity level, which is that of an adult. So Kaji, who is over twice her age, she considers herself as mature as Kaji, or at least close. Which, of course, isn't true at all. But, when you're 14, that's how you imagine it. I was going to say when you're 14 and a girl, that's how you imagine it. But I guess we probably shouldn't talk too much as if we understand what it's like to be a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm just making assumptions based on, information that I've observed. But anyways, so Asuka definitely is in that mindset of she wants to date older guys, and she considers herself ready to date older guys. Of course, the truth is Asuka isn't really that much more mature than anybody else.
No,
it's more of an act to help her cope with things in life, and whatever. But anyway, so of course Kaji rejects her, and that is kind of going into her character in episode 8 when we're first introduced to her and her throughout the show. That's kind of what kicks that off.
Right, because he doesn't just reject her. He rejects her as a child, which is this
yeah,
just really sets something she definitely doesn't want to be called. So
yeah, exactly. It'd be one thing to just be no, that still hurt her, but to say no, you're a fucking kid.
Yeah,
because she doesn't. Because to her, she's not.
Yeah,
she's an adult.
Yeah, she
is ready to take on the responsibility of the world. Or she believes that she is. Of course, she's not. But
yeah, did you even see her boobs? She's an adult now.
So then we get even further back in Asuka's life. We see some stuff of her mom. So her mom, in case this wasn't clear in the episode, or maybe I don't know. I'm sure everybody knows this, but her mom was involved with Evangelions and was in an experiment. I'm not entirely sure the nature of the experiment, but I believe it was probably pretty similar to what happened to Yui. They were trying to somehow either have her operate in Eva or have her somehow merge with an Eva, but it ended with her about part of her being merged with an Eva, mostly her, I guess you would say, soul.
Yeah.
And some of her mind is merged into Unit 2. But unlike Yui, she wasn't completely absorbed. The process somehow didn't go all the way through. So the loving, caring, sensible part of her did go into Unit 2, and so what's left is kind of a shell of a person.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Asuka's mom is just this crazy bitch now that is it has this doll that it thinks of as her daughter, and it recognizes that Asuka is there, but it doesn't recognize her as Asuka. It's just like, oh, there's some weird girl in the room. I don't know who the fuck that is because this doll is Asuka.
Right.
And we talked about this in the other one, but it'd be one thing for her mom to just go crazy and ignore her, but it's the fact that she is not ignoring her. She is addressing her and saying, like, I see you're there. I recognize your presence, but you're not my daughter. I don't know who you are.
Right.
That's even worse than just being ignored. Especially to Asuka.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
But anyway, so then we hear somebody, a doctor or something outside the room, talking about how the mom's gone crazy and has this doll or whatever, and there's a couple quotes. Maybe there's a little difference between humans and dolls are made by humans in their own image, and that's kind of setting up a lot of Asuka's kind of issues, but it's also really starting to set up her big issues with Rey, which we'll get to a little bit more later. But obviously, she views Rey kind of as a human doll, which she is. Then we find out Misato is talking to the glasses guy from Nerve, and they find out, or he tells her that mass production of Evangelions has started. These are, of course, the mass production Evas we see later on in End of Evangelion, but production has officially begun on them in this episode. Couple scenes of like Asuka trying to call Kaji and talk about Kaji. Of course, she doesn't know he's dead,
right?
But she recognizes that something is kind of weird because even Kaji's obviously kind of always been aloof and distant from her, but it's been probably a while since they've talked. I'm not sure the time frame here, but I know Shinji was stuck inside of one for a while. I guess the Kaji thing was after he was out, but yeah, I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I'm sure Asuka is probably kind of suspicious at this point. We go to a dinner scene of Misato, Shinji, and Asuka, and this is a cool scene because it parallels kind of how far the show has come. Because this is very reminiscent of like the earlier dinner scenes where there's like the happy Misato theme playing, Pin slurping down fish, Misato's chugging beer and like yelling and being all happy, and like those scenes I think were set up just to kind of make this scene work now.
Yeah.
Because this scene is just so like quiet and empty, and you even have Pin in there like looking confused, as like, what the fuck is up?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the phone rings, and Asuka's stepmom back from Germany, and it's interesting because Asuka like snaps into a completely different person while she's talking to her stepmom, and once the call is ended, we find out that this is a complete facade. Actually, she's kind of putting that act on, I guess, to not make her stepmom worry, or just to be polite, maybe. But she kind of says like, my stepparents like aren't bad people, but they're not my parents.
Exactly.
Like, they're not the same thing.
They tried, but still, it's not. It's no replacement.
Yeah, definitely. And she obviously never grew close enough to them to ever feel any sort of, even if the word wasn't replaced, like she doesn't feel close to them in any way.
Yeah. No attachment to them.
That leads us into Asuka goes to take a bath, and she has a complete kind of mental breakdown over just everything that's going on and all the stuff that she's been dealing with. And I think her stepmom calling probably triggered some old memories she hadn't thought about in a while of her mom and just her old life, which Asuka tries very desperately to leave behind her. And so she has a complete breakdown, saying like, I hate everybody else, and mostly I hate myself. Real quick, at the beginning of the scene, she says, I don't want to take a bath in the same water that Misato and Shinji used, and 100% agree. Why the fuck would anyone take a bath in the same water that someone else used? That's fucking disgusting.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like a cultural thing. This is the second time
we've had this conversation, and I'm still disgusted by it.
It's a cultural thing, I'm sure, but still, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, I mean,
especially because there's 3 people doing it.
Yeah. It conserves water, sure, but hey, you know what? Fuck the planet. Take separate baths. Actually, fuck a bath. Take a shower.
Take a shower.
But yeah, it probably is more of like a thing you would do in a country that isn't as wasteful as us Americans, showcased by what I just said. But yeah, it's still gross. Yeah, 3 people, and like, I don't know, boys and girls too. Like, that's just, there's things there that shouldn't mix. Yeah, so I'd probably have a mental breakdown too if I kept having to take baths under those circumstances. But anyways, I want to talk about how Asuka kind of reacts to stuff. This is kind of, I guess, the big like meat and potatoes that we got into in the last episode. But it kind of starts to be shown in this scene. And I might be getting to it a little bit early, but whatever. who gives a fuck. So Asuka, as she's having this breakdown, she starts talking about, everybody else that she hates. Like, I hate this person, fuck this person. And of course, ultimately she says, I hate myself.
Yeah.
And this is what is kind of, I don't know how to get back into this the way we did before, but
kind of the theme of.
I get, well, what Asuka does is she, all of the things that she's going through, all of her personal turmoil, all of her anger, all of her stress, she doesn't want to deal with it. So what she does is she externalizes it. Instead of saying, these are my issues, these are my problems, these are my stresses, she says, oh, it's fucking Shinji's fault.
Right.
He's a piece of shit. I fucking hate Shinji. Or, it's Misato's fault. It's Rei's fault. It's my stepmom's fault. She always pushes that off onto somebody else. Mm-hmm. Except maybe for Kaji. But that's a little different. But, she always tries to push it onto someone else rather than accepting, like, maybe, and not that it's always her fault. Not that you should take everything onto yourself. But, sometimes you have to look at, are these issues I'm having because of me or what? And it's interesting because this is where Asuka and Shinji's characters really, you see the big parallel between them. Because... Right. Essentially, they have the same background. Mm-hmm. They both, at a very young age, lost essentially both their parents. Obviously, Shinji still has Gendo. Asuka now has her step-parents, but those don't count. Those don't suffice. They both lost their moms in pretty similar circumstances.
Yeah, very similar circumstances.
Evangelion-related accidents, which essentially both of their moms were absorbed into. Obviously, Asuka's was still around in some capacity. But that, obviously, it wasn't a good capacity. No. So they pretty much had the same situation of they both lost their parents. Then, of course, Asuka's mom killed herself. And they were both abandoned at a very young age and then forced to be taken care of by somebody else that was unfamiliar to them. Shinji, his teacher, Asuka, her step-parents. And those people, while they, like and care about them, they don't really have any connection with them. And that's why I think we never hear anything about Shinji's teacher. Like, no. We never see a picture of Shinji's teacher. We never find out a fact about Shinji's teacher.
He occasionally talks about him, like, oh, well, he told me to, like, practice the violin or cello or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just random stuff like that, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's just the same thing. It's like the same reason we've never heard about who Asuka was staying with until this episode. It doesn't matter to that person. Mm-hmm. Like, not that they hate those people, but, like, they just feel nothing towards them. But so what's interesting about these two characters, though, is they have the same background. They've had the same things happen to them for the most part.
Right.
And where they differ is how they've chosen to deal with all that. Asuka, as I said, chooses... They both choose not to accept those things and deal with them and move forward, which is what you typically do, especially at an immature age. It's much easier to not face an issue and to just, like, move past it.
Well, I think they both tried to mature a lot more, too, like, be more mature than they are.
Yeah, well. But, I mean, it's not really until you're really an adult,
right.
And even, I think a couple years into being an adult, that you actually learn to kind of accept things, bad and good, deal with them, and move forward. Mm-hmm. When you're more immature, your reaction is simply like, I'm not even going to think about that.
Right.
And even if something shitty happens to you, you have to think about it. You have to address that it happened, deal with it, and move forward. Not addressing it is just setting yourself up for a big meltdown later. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so how these characters differ is the way they respond to this. So, yeah, like I was saying, Asuka pushes all that away onto other people. She externalizes all of her conflicts onto others and blames everybody else for the things happening to her. Deep down, she does blame herself, and she does hate herself for it, but to cope with it on a day-to-day basis, she pushes it onto other people. And it's only, I think this is the first time that she's actually admitting, like, I really hate myself.
Yeah.
I don't think she's ever had that thought before this episode. I think she has always pushed it onto other people, and in this big breakdown, she's finally realizing all of the stuff that she's put onto other people is really how she feels about herself. Mm-hmm. But how Shinji chooses to react to it, he also runs away from it, but not in the same way. Instead of externalizing it onto other people, he blames himself for everything. It's not, Gendo's fault. It's not Misato's fault. It's my fault. It's a problem with me. There's something wrong with me. And, there's a few exceptions where maybe he'll say, like, oh, my dad did this. But really, it's his fault somehow. Like, he's blaming himself for it. And that's what I think is so interesting about these two characters, is that they are kind of at the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how you deal with conflict.
Yeah, definitely. While Rei's kind of neutral.
And Rei is perfectly centered in the middle because she has no reaction to things like that.
Yep.
She is perfectly centered. So that's the three Eva pilots, essentially. They are on each end of the spectrum on how you deal with things. Asuka is like the fiery, I'm going to, fuck everybody else for what's happened to me.
Right.
Fuck the world. Rei is right in the center. She couldn't care one way or the other, and Shinji is very much like, what's wrong with me? What have I done to cause all this? And what's interesting is I think this is really, obviously these are the most extreme examples, but this is how I think everybody in the world deals with conflict in some way. And you can put yourself on a scale somewhere between these characters. And, obviously you're not always going to be in that same spot. Depending on the situation, you could be way more like Asuka, way more like Shinji. But essentially, yeah, these represent kind of how everybody deals with things. I know me personally, again, these are extreme examples, so hopefully you're not going to be all the way on the side of Shinji or all the way on the side of Asuka. You're a little bit, tipped that way. But I know, like, personally for me, I'd probably be a little more leaning towards Shinji's side because I don't typically blame, like, other people and, like, get mad at other people for my issues. I have a much harder time on myself, and I'll usually take things out harder on myself. Other people are different. Other people will externalize it. If you ever see somebody and you think, like, oh, that person's a bitch, well, they might be.
Yeah.
But they might have, like, a deep reason for that. And, I think you just really have to kind of consider that about people. Like, maybe that person is just being an asshole. And not that this justifies their behavior, but maybe they're just being an asshole because of the things that has happened to them in their life and the way they've chosen to react to.
Right. There's always some sort of background, like, you don't really know. Because, like, for Asuka, I mean, I see why some people may not like Asuka, because you could see the whole time it's like, oh, she's just a bitch character.
Yeah.
Until you see this episode, you're like, oh, okay, everybody has a story kind of thing.
Well, but a lot of people feel the same way about Shinji. Is like, Asuka is a bitch, and Shinji is bitchy.
Bitchy, yeah.
Like, he's like this bitchy little kid that's like, can't do anything. And, people, it's because they're the extreme examples. They're kind of meant to give you that reaction. The same way that if you met somebody like that in real life, you would have that reaction.
Right.
But what's so good about Evangelion is that it allows you to look deeper into those people.
Right.
It's not just a one-sided, bitch character. There's so many layers there, and you can really get a grasp of what causes a person to act like that. So it it purposely gives you those reactions to those characters so that it can later peel those back and show you, like, hey, there's more to people than you think. And that's what, to me, when I watched the show when I was 17 or 18, it let me think about that. That was something I hadn't ever thought about at that age. Maybe I was, I don't know, behind a lot of people. Maybe other people had. But, like, I remember being 18 and, like, watching the show and being like, holy shit, I didn't realize that there was so much, like, deep complexities to people.
Right.
Because I'd maybe thought about that about myself. But I think at that age, at least for me, I wasn't under the impression that people were that different. I kind of thought, people are all the same, whatever. Like, if I think this, then another person thinks this way. And that was, Evangelion was kind of the show that taught me, like, people are very different.
Yeah, definitely.
They respond very differently to the situations they've been through. They think differently. They react differently. And it really, like, got me thinking about why people do the things they do and gave me, like, kind of a basis to start off of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I really connected with the show so early on. It was the first show that kind of, like, opened my my view of the world and, like, really, like, allowed me to consider a lot of things. So, I know a lot of people really like it for, like, the story and stuff, and I love the story too. But I think that's why maybe I'm not as good at, saying, like, every employee at Nerve or what the angels' names are, because that wasn't really what appealed to me about the show. I love that stuff. It's great.
Right,
There's great
cool,
lore. Yeah. But one of the reasons I like the show so much is, like, the deep psychological aspects that it made me, like, think about and discover. So I think, yeah, that's maybe why I'm not so good on any of the knowledge. Also, I'm just dumb. But
and it kind of sucks. I feel like some people miss out on that stuff too, because there's so many people all the time who are just like, oh, Shinji's just a shitty character. I can't get past it. It's like, well, you just got to dive deeper, like, to why he really is like that. Then it makes sense. And to me, I think it's cool that a show, like, purposely makes a character like that and wants you to purposely be like, man, fuck Shinji. Because it's, like, all part of, like, how they're telling the story. Like, well, there's so much more to him, and for you to understand that, you need to, like, really hate him.
Yeah, it's a really brilliant way to reveal things and to show things. To present a character kind of as one-sided and a flat character, and then to give them so much dynamic elements later. It's a very, very smart way to write. And, yeah, a lot of people can't get past that. A lot of people don't make it that far into the show.
That's true.
Also, a lot of other people just don't really think that much about it. Maybe even people that like the show maybe just like a show about big robots fighting big aliens. Which I guess, that's fine, I guess, if you want to watch it for that, but that's not what I get out of it. I get something very different out of it than that.
Same
and
here.
So when I go to talk about the show, obviously that's mostly what this podcast has been talking about the story and plot. But I think we've talked about that mostly because we've kind of been aware of all the other stuff, and, like, we haven't felt a need to talk about it because we've already thought about it so much. And so this time we've been talking so much about the story because I think we honestly haven't given that as much thought before.
Right.
And so now we're discovering things about the story. We're like, oh, I didn't know this thing was there. And other people might be like, well, duh. And it's just like, I mean, that is obvious now that I'm watching it. But every time I've watched the show, I wasn't really focused on that stuff.
Exactly.
And so, I think that's why, honestly, this podcast has been more about that stuff, is we haven't felt the need to jump into the stuff we already knew. But yeah, so, I mean, everybody out there, like, what, we've kind of asked, like, what do you like about that show or whatever, but, like, really, like, now that we're at this point, like, what it really comes down to the show, what is it that really sells it to you? Is it, like, the twists and turns, is it the interesting lore, or is it like this kind of like deeper psychological stuff, or is it just like the mindfuck elements of like crazy shit is going down? Because I love that stuff too. I mean, really, it can be all the above. I like all the things about the show. It's just this is the thing that I first connected with, especially watching it at the age I did. Like, this was something that was really important to me and impactful to me, and like to the point where like anytime I watch other movies about characters or shows about characters, I'm honestly still kind of thinking back on this one, like, maybe not saying like, oh man, that character's just like Shinji. I don't necessarily do that, but it makes me like, when I look at a show, I find that I'm giving a deeper analysis of certain aspects that I never would have given if I probably hadn't seen this show.
Exactly. Like, it really makes me focus more on character to character, like, shows or other type things, rather than before just watching the story and kind of going along with it,
Well, that, and also just, I think looking for symbolism too, was something I hadn't, at 18, I was still watching a lot of stuff like Seth Rogen movies and like Will Ferrell shit, and like, I wasn't at the point where I was watching a lot of movies that had a lot of like deep symbolism and shows that had deep symbolism. And I think Evangelion was a show that really made me realize, like, because by the end of the show, you realize, hey, all this stuff about robots, while an interesting story, was really just a metaphor and a theme and a symbol for something else about these kids growing up.
Right.
And I think that really made me like look at shows differently, because now, when I watch a show and like a character, I don't know, wears a blue shirt, I might think about like, what does that mean for that character,
Right.
And I really hadn't really considered that much. Maybe a little bit from watching Lost, but I think Evangelion was the show that really showed me like how deep you can get with stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so I'd be curious to know, like, other people, do you feel the same way, or like, do you not give a shit about any of those elements? Which is fine, but just what draws you into Evangelion over and over? Obviously, I could see how you'd go for the first watch, but if you've seen it multiple times, like, what do you keep coming back for?
For me, on my end, I feel like I initially got drawn in by like the mystery and the mindfuck and the twists and turns, but definitely getting more into Ava afterwards and like watching it over and over again, like being on my second watch through and watching the rebuilds a lot more now. It's definitely more about like you say, with like the deep, like the really deep, rich characters they kind of made. I mean, I started to appreciate that definitely more the second time through.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think I kind of underappreciate the fact that really did like change the way I look at things. Because I mean, even just you and me, I know we have so many conversations about, hey, why do people act like this? Why do people do this thing?
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, would I even think about that if I hadn't watched the show? Like, I mean, I might have just discovered that on my own. I probably would have, but like, a lot of that I tie back to me watching Ava for the first time, and like that really is what opened that door for me. So I wonder if like a lot of the conversations I have would be different, or a lot of the way I look at things would be different if I hadn't watched the show.
That's crazy to think of. But
It is. It's weird because at this point I can't really think of what it would be like if I hadn't. But yeah. So anyways, let's get back on track in the episode. So after the bath scene, there is a scene I really like, the elevator scene.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of Ava's famous long takes, and I believe in the on-air version this is actually the same, which is interesting just because it's such a long thing. You would think if you were going to cut something down for TV, you would maybe leave in some of the psychological stuff we'll get to in a minute and cut this elevator scene. But, I think Anna really wanted this scene to stay in there because it is important despite its simplicity. And this scene is important because it's at this point we're starting to see a big, I don't want to say, I don't know the right word, clash, or I want to say clash because it's kind of one-sided, but we're seeing the big opposition of Asuka to Rei.
Yeah.
And Asuka at this point has kind of decided, though deep down she knows she hates herself, she's really putting a lot of that into Rei. And even though, Shinji is kind of, in some ways, her opposite, she still legitimately likes Shinji and kind of wants to be with him in a way. She's not going to put all that hate into Kaji. She's not going to put all that hate into Misato because Misato takes care of her. But here's this character, Rei, who she doesn't have any attachment to. She doesn't care about. And so it is the perfect target for her to place all of her negative energy.
Right, and she's not going to say anything or do anything about it, really.
Yeah, exactly. And but so Ray actually kind of, I don't know if I'd say opens up, but tries to give Asuka advice about piloting her Ava. And Asuka is, of course, very against hearing any advice from Ray because she doesn't like Ray. And she starts insulting Ray and going on a tirade and eventually calls her a doll. And this is interesting because Ray, again, is always very in that neutral center. But Ray actually shows some emotion here and says, I'm not a doll. She actually, normally you would think if you insulted Ray, she'd be like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't care. But this is the thing where it's like, hey, that actually kind of like affected Ray on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm not a doll. And then Asuka slaps her. And, starts screaming more about how I hate you, I hate everybody. And, I don't know, just really interesting scene.
It's a good scene, too, because, like, the whole doll thing, like we talked about before, kind of draws back to where everybody always seems to think Ray's this golden child or pay attention to Ray all the time. And Asuka kind of feels like taking a back seat to her, which kind of goes with her mom, where her mom gave way more attention to the doll than ever to her. So
oh right, yeah, I
it's
forgot.
It's kind of like projecting that whole hatred and like feelings of that onto Ray as well.
Yeah, because again, it's the thing we said earlier of like it would be one thing to be ignored, but it's the fact that people are saying, with her mom, it was like saying, hey, there's some weird girl in the room, but hey, you're the one I care about. Right. And with Ray and Shinji as well, it's hey, you guys are great Ava pilots, and you've saved the day. Hey, Asuka, how's it going? And, like, they're addressing her. She's there. She's in the room. But now, when Asuka came to Japan, she was the best Ava pilot in the world in her mind. Nothing could beat her. No angel could stop her. And all of a sudden, Shinji keeps saving the day over and over and over. And, she can't put all of her hatred on Shinji because she likes him. But Shinji keeps going back to Ray and talking to Ray. Right. And even after he's been dissolved in an Evangelion, the first person he talks to, in a meaningful way is Ray.
Right.
And, Asuka is not happy about that because it's the same thing as like, hey, Asuka, you're here, but you're not the one I'm caring about and giving my emotion to. And, of course, from Shinji's perspective, why would he go to Asuka? Asuka's been mean to him.
Exactly.
He can't see that she actually cares about him, and, he doesn't know what to do with those feelings either that he has because, he's a 14-year-old boy, and, I mean, what do you do when you like a girl and you're 14? Unless you're just, like, some kind of early player. But hey, Shinji's not.
Nope.
Just in case you didn't know. But anyways, we get a quick scene of the school, and we see that it's mostly empty. I believe this is the last time we see any of these characters, unless we kind of see them in like episodes 25 and 26 when Shinji's having like the examination of his mind. But like actually seeing the characters, I believe this is the last time we see Kensuke and the class rep. Of course, Toji's not around. Probably not doing so well. Then an angel appears. Remember angels, guys? The show is about angels. So yeah, it's interesting because like at this point, I was you're so interested in everything else that's going on. It is kind of like a surprise to see an angel. It's like, oh yeah, those guys. I guess those guys are still coming to fight. This one's up in orbit. It's not doing anything. It's hanging back, which is interesting because it's not trying to attack. And this is like. There's been a couple angels that they discovered that weren't necessarily like launching into combat, but they were kind of, except for Magma Diver, that's kind of an exception. But all the other angels kind of were approaching Nerve, even if they weren't immediately attacking it. This one's just there. It's not doing anything threatening. So they say Unit 1 will be frozen. Unit 1 will not go into combat under any circumstances. And they're going to launch Ray into battle with Asuka, backing her up. Asuka's like, fuck that, I got this. And she takes off towards the top. And Misato's like, well, let her, maybe she can win this, and then she will have her confidence restored. Yeah.
Ritsuko immediately is just like, all right, I think we have to replace this pilot.
Yeah, definitely. Ritsuko doesn't give a shit about Asuka, aside from the fact that it's going to be hard to replace her.
In fact, I'm pretty sure she calls her a bitch after she does it, too.
I don't remember. But
at least she does in the dub.
Okay. But Misato has kind of been trying to make excuses for Asuka the whole time, because she does care about Asuka. And she understands she's going through a tough time. Also, she heard Asuka's mental breakdown.
Yeah.
So she definitely knows, like, hey, Asuka's going through some shit. So Asuka goes up into battle and is trying to fire at the angel, and it launches a psychic attack on her while Hallelujah plays, which is, I think, the first time in the show we get kind of this classical music over this kind of scene.
Really fucked up scene.
Really fucked up scene, and it's awesome. It's one of the highlights of Evangelion is
Really good juxtaposition.
the juxtaposition of the old like classical music that you're very familiar with set to this newer bizarre imagery, and it's a very like Kubrick-esque kind of thing that Anno I think definitely picked up from there. Kubrick would do that in his movies, and Anno definitely takes a page out of his book, but he does it very effectively and very well. And we get it here. We're gonna get it again soon in the episode with Karu, and then End of Evangelion has it's not classical, but Kamsa Sartad, or however you say it. And then we see some of that in the rebuild. So it's a trick they use a lot, but it never fails to. I never don't love it.
Yeah, exactly.
They could do it every 2 minutes, and I would still love it. So they realize the angel is trying to understand the minds of people. It's trying to search the human mind. So that's kind of maybe why this angel was hanging back. It wasn't going to attack. It almost seems like at this point the angels have completely shifted their goal.
Yeah, definitely.
Their goal has always been reach at him, and that's it. Reach at him, trigger third impact. And now this is the first time where it seems like, hey, the angel wasn't even trying to do that. This angel was only trying to get inside a person's head, because I think, especially after what's happened with the last couple angels, and there was that angel that Shinji had been inside of, and it kind of tapped into his mind, kind of accidentally. The angels seem to have gotten a taste for, that these people are like different.
There's more to them than they thought originally.
Yeah, the angels, seem to have some sort of higher intelligence, and they have discovered that humans do too. Maybe they had just thought of humans as like these little ants that were in their way, but now they're kind of realizing like, hey, these are something we need to study. And so it seems like this angel is like actually attempting to like dive into a person's mind and examine all of the things about that person. Unfortunately, its process for doing it is not very pain-free.
Nope.
And especially for Asuka, who because when the angel searches the human mind, it brings up all those old memories for the person to see. And Asuka has tried very hard to hide her past and run away from it. She doesn't want to remember those things.
No.
She doesn't like to remember those things, and she's already been struggling because she has been kind of having those memories triggered. And so we get a lot of flashes. And again, these are not in the on-air version. These are only in the director's cut. But we start getting all these crazy flashes of a lot of different stuff. First of all, we hear a sort of conversation between Asuka and her mom, where Asuka's mom is saying, like, I don't remember the exact lines, but something about, I'm going to kill myself. You should come with me. We'll go together. And at first, Asuka's like, no, I don't want to do that. But eventually she's like, yeah, you know what, Mom? I love you. I'll do that with you. And then Asuka's mom replies, like, who are you? I'm talking to the doll. Or,
Yeah.
Or she doesn't even say I'm talking to the doll because she doesn't think of it as a doll. But, she says, like, you're not my daughter or whatever. So even, Asuka wasn't even good enough to die with her mom.
Exactly. Well, I think that kind of brings up an interesting point, too, with the more parallels between her and Shinji, because they both basically watched their mother die in front of them.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because, Shinji was there during the Unit 1 test experiment with Yui. And, Asuka, of course, we see later on, actually saw her mom's dead body hanging there, but also was involved in the conversations about her mom killing herself, and actually agreed to join in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even good enough to die. Which, is kind of like, I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I remember once reading something about Shinji and somebody said, like, he's even too weak and cowardly to actually kill himself. So it's a similar situation of, like, they aren't even good enough to die.
Yeah.
Not that, killing yourself would be the answer, but, that's how Shinji is kind of views himself. We start getting a lot of flashes of Asuka's kind of the different sides of her. The kind of, like, seductive side, the more, like, mature side, the bitchy side, and just the, like, friendly, hi, I'm Asuka kind of side. And she kind of says, like, no, this isn't me. None of these are the real me. The way Asuka looks at herself is not the same way other people do. So essentially what's happening here is I believe the angel is tapping into, like, the different ways Asuka presents herself. But it's only seeing a side of them. Whereas Asuka doesn't consider any of those sides of her to be her true self. The same way, like, if you went to the store and bumped into somebody and said, like, I don't know, something rude to them, later on you might think back and be like, oh, that wasn't me. Why did I say that?
Yeah.
But to that person, that was you.
Yeah.
That was the only taste they got of you, so that was you.
That's how they're always
that person
be.
remembers you
Yeah.
as that. And when you only, when you have limited interactions with people, or even extended interactions with people, you only see the side of them that they show to you. And so, this was kind of brought up in that one episode with Shinji, but, like, in every person's mind, there is a different version of every person they've met.
Mm-hmm.
you might meet somebody and they might seem very, very friendly, and you might think of them as super friendly, but maybe they don't think of themselves that way. Maybe they think of themselves as like a person with tons and tons of range and spectrum that's not always nice, not always mean, but if they only present to you one side of you, you have a very different version of them in your mind. And this is another one of the things that fascinated with me the first time I watched Evangelion, because it made me realize, like, whoa, the way I look at myself isn't the way other people look at me.
Yeah.
And it really made me think, like, yeah, I guess that totally makes sense. Like, when you, like, if there's a girl you're talking to and you're flirting with a lot, she thinks of you completely differently than you do. Or, you know, again, if you bump into somebody, or if you see somebody, if you are at a job, I'm sure, you know, anybody can probably identify with the versions of yourself at a job is so far different from how you actually act.
Absolutely.
All the people, all the customers that you see, all the people that you work with know a completely different person than the way you view yourself or the way your friends view you.
Yeah.
And I think that's very fascinating. And so here this angel is examining the different sides of Asuka, the way she is, you know, presents herself to other people. And she is not happy with that because she's not comfortable with that idea that people don't see her for who she is. You know, she views herself as this mature, you know, what's the right word? She's very, you know, cocky. She wants to be viewed as great. And she doesn't like being viewed as weak.
Right, yeah, she's very sure of herself.
Yeah. She doesn't want to be viewed by her weaknesses. She wants to be viewed by her strengths. Yeah. And here are some of her, like, weaker character traits being exposed. And, you know, obviously that's not going to be something you want to see.
Exactly.
We talked about this scene. There's a scene afterwards where she's walking on some train tracks. And we're not entirely sure what this means symbolically. But we got a couple ideas, I guess. So she's walking along these tracks, and she sees a figure off in the distance. And she tries to head towards it, but there's a massive crowd of hooded or like robed figures that start bumping into her, and or at least a couple of the robes start removing themselves, and it looks like a kind of bizarre reddish outline of Asuka herself, and then she kind of fades away into all of the red, whatever. So I think what we kind of decided on is like, you know, Asuka has like a goal and she's trying to get towards it, but she sees all these people in her way. And she's, you know, she hates that like all these people are like bumping into her in her way. But really, when the mask comes off, all those people are herself, and she's really angry at herself. You know, she puts it off onto this crowd like, oh, it's all these people that are a problem. But really deep down, it's the problem she sees in herself that she's putting off on other people. So I think that's kind of what this means. I'm not entirely sure what it means, like the thing she's heading towards.
Because she's shouting for Mr. Kaji.
Yeah,
and she's asking for help.
After the crowd starts bumping into her, she seems to believe it's Kaji. Yeah.
So I feel like she sees in a way, like kind of what we're saying. It's like no one's there to help. Like she's always constantly asking for help, but no one's helping her. And then she kind of realizes that she's always the person getting in her own way for anybody to help her or anything. Like, you know, kind of, it's her own fault, really. Yeah. Despite her blaming everybody else.
Even most of the problems that she has with other people are really the problems she has with herself. Yeah. Like, you know, if she says like, oh man, Shinji sucks because he's this way, the truth is that Asuka's that way, and she's, you know, she's putting that into someone else.
Right.
The same way, like, if you're kind of an asshole, but you won't, like, admit it, and you meet somebody that's an asshole, you probably think, that guy's a piece of shit. But really, it's, like, your own fault of not recognizing your own weakness, you know? Mm-hmm. But I think people definitely do that kind of thing in relationships, honestly. And on that note, Asuka then sees Kaji, an actual flash of Kaji, but then it kind of, like, pans over, and it's you know, Shinji is there, and it's a very quick spectrum of emotions. So, you know, with Kaji she sees comfort, and maybe to her she sees a future, and then of course with Shinji it's a very different reaction.
Yeah.
But this is just another scene of like, you know, Asuka doesn't get the things she wants.
Yeah.
There's the things that are there, and they're not the things that she wants, and she's striving towards.
This one you can definitely tell too how much she really actually cares about Shinji too.
Yes, yeah, and her reluctance to admit that.
Yeah, because like she's sitting there saying he won't help me or he doesn't want to do anything like that, but really she's like saying like he won't even hold me or do anything like that. So it's very much like you obviously can tell at this point that she has feelings for Shinji.
Yeah, she definitely cares a lot about Shinji, but yeah, I think that she sees so much of herself in Shinji because they are so similar. And to it, you know, if she admits that she likes Shinji, what does that mean about all of the things about her? And like, you know, I think that she can never truly admit the way she feels about Shinji because so much of herself is there, and she hates herself.
I think it also ties into with the child thing, too, where it's like Kaji equals mature adulthood, and Shinji's still just another kid like her, and she doesn't want to admit to being a kid.
Yeah, definitely. She wants to be past it. She's not going to cry anymore. She's mature. She's an adult.
Yeah.
And, you know, she wants to be the best in the world. And when all those things start crumbling, she has nowhere to turn. And her one rock of like support was kind of the idea of Kaji,
Yeah.
and now that's gone, and that's really, you know, also what's causing some of these breakdowns to trigger.
Right.
Because even though, you know, obviously it was never going to happen with Kaji, obviously in her mind, as long as he was around, something would have happened.
Right.
So there's, in between kind of all this, there's a lot of flashes. There's a ton of text that gets flashes. Do you still have those pulled up?
Yep.
All right, so we're just going to go through what some of those texts are, just in case you guys missed it, because they flash exceptionally fast. So here's just an exceptionally long list of all of that.
All right. It is denial, father, mother, provision, evasion, don't violate me, insecurity, die with me, mother, or I already said mother, obsessive compulsive, attachment behavior, presumption, sense of loss, no, it hurts, I like you so much, I hate you so much, separation, evasion, deception, I'm not a doll, psychological behavior, clearly present, masculinity is something I couldn't catch the second part, shadow, reflection, deception, reason for existence, and coexist, hostility, oppression, and death.
All right, so that's a lot of heavy shit right there. So we decided when we talked about this before, the way we look at this, and maybe this isn't correct, you know, who knows, but the way I think we kind of agreed that we look at this is these are quotes from both Asuka and the angel trying to talk to her.
Yeah.
Trying to find a way to communicate with her. Angels in the show, Karu aside, because that's obviously an exception, angels in the show don't have a voice. They don't have a way to talk and communicate with people. And anytime that we do see some sort of communication, it is always in the form of text on a screen, which is something I think we both really like. We think that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That also happens in the end of Evangelion when Rey, spoilers guys, when Rey merges back with Lilith and Rey says, I'm home. And then on text, on screen, you just see the text, welcome home. Because a voice wouldn't suffice there. A voice saying, welcome home, like, it would sound really fucking stupid. So instead, just having that text there means so much more. And this is the first kind of instance we get a big taste of that. Maybe a little bit in episode 16 when Shinji falls into the Sea of Darok. But in this episode, we see, you know, what that's kind of like. And some of these quotes definitely seem like they're coming from Asuka. And maybe it's actually Asuka saying them. Maybe it's sort of the angel repeating them or like trying to analyze them. Could go either way. But it definitely seems like some of the quotes are from Asuka. You know, some of the quotes like, it hurts, no, I'm not a doll. But then there's other quotes that seem like words Asuka wouldn't use. And I already forgot what a bunch of them were, but like separation or
attachment behavior,
like,
obsessive compulsive, you know, stuff like
that. Yeah,
that.
these seem like words that if you were a psychiatrist and you were analyzing somebody, you would use to describe their behavior. Yeah, obsessive compulsive is like, you know, you're interviewing somebody in the psychiatric chair and you're like taking these notes of like, oh yeah, this person's this person's this, and it's not the things you would admit to them, but you know, it's the notes you're taking to like get a gauge of their behavior and maybe any conditions or whatever. So they definitely don't seem like words Asuka would use to describe herself or analyze herself. It seems like an outside source psychoanalyzing her, which obviously in this case that's going to be the angel. So yeah, there's maybe some sort of a back and forth there. Or maybe
right, because then there's some things where it's just like, you know, it hurts or no or, you know, stop and stuff like that. So it very much seems like it, like you said, a back and forth of thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. But, you know, I'd like to hear if anybody else has any ideas what they think it might be. Because, you know, that's just what we kind of decided. And we actually spent, I think, more time talking about it before.
Yeah,
because we were kind of deciding in the podcast that got scrapped. But so hopefully we made that make sense, because again we didn't talk about it as much. But anyways, so then there is real quick, there's also some like childlike drawings in some of those flashes, which are really cool.
Really cool.
I always like when Evangelion feels the need to like throw in like bizarre shit. Like at the end of Evangelion, there's parts where there's literally like emails or letters that were sent to Hideki Anno, like hate mail and like praise mail and stuff. It's just thrown in the episode. There's like fucking live action shit that gets thrown in, and it, like, I'm totally fine. Like if it's a scene, you know, if it's a regular scene, don't do that. But if it's a scene where somebody's mind is coming apart, like the fabric is being unwoven, like sure, throw in crazy imagery and shit.
Right.
Because I forgot, we didn't really talk about this here, but we talked about this a lot in the other one. The way somebody's mind would typically work is if you viewed somebody's mind and memories, you wouldn't see like complete episodes and complete moments. You would see little flashes of them. The same way if you look back on something, like if I look back on going to Disney World, I don't remember as I slowly walked along Main Street and like turned into Tomorrowland. You know, I don't remember all that. I remember like, oh yeah, there's this flash of like Star Tours, and there's flash of like meeting one of the mascots. You remember things in like little flashes and bursts, negative and bad things.
Yeah.
If you see something terrible, you don't necessarily remember every detail. You remember like a flash of something. That's just how memories typically work, especially over time. Maybe if it's more recent, that's different. But so if you're looking into someone else's mind, you're just seeing these bizarre images and trying to understand them. And so, yeah, maybe some of them are like these weird drawings that maybe Asuka drew as a kid, as a troubled kid, or maybe it's like just a quick flash of Kaji. Maybe it's a flash of this, or whatever. Maybe it's just text. And I think Evangelion, more than maybe any other show I've seen, kind of shows you what a person's mind is like. I mean, so many other shows will like have somebody tap into someone else's mind, and again, it's like that full memory thing. And I understand, like, from a writing perspective, it's easier to do that. But I think showing it as like these bizarre abstract images is so much more real and interesting.
Well,
and no other show really does that.
What's really crazy about it too is like how quick and short all these things are. You have so many images that flash by so quickly. So they put so much thought into picking out so many images so it fills in the time slot. While also you really don't get to see them at all either.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think maybe they just threw them in for shits and giggles, but I imagine all these flashes represent very serious things, very real things about this character. And they're not, they are things that if you stopped and talked about the way we are, you could get this much talk out of them. They're not meant to just be like, oh, okay, that's just this little flash of whatever. Yeah. Like, they're meant to be deep, interesting things. Like, I mean, we could probably do a whole thing where we looked at each of the drawings and honestly talked about what we thought they meant.
All the flashes and all the stuff like that.
There's a lot of detail and information in each of those little frames. And that's really cool. A lot of other people wouldn't go to that effort. So then we get a scene somewhat in Asuka's mind where Asuka is naked next to a swing set, the Asuka we know now, the 14-year-old Asuka. And a younger Asuka that's like kind of bluish approaches her holding a doll, specifically the doll that her stepmom or stepdad gave to her when she first went with them. And she says, I can't remember the exact line because it's been a couple days. Something about like,
do you really
you're not the real.
Isn't that what she says?
Well, no, I thought she said something like "you're not me" or something, and then the figure kind of like vanishes, and then the doll is just left. But it also tries to talk to her. And the way I look at this scene is, I believe that the angel has now viewed her mind, has viewed all this stuff, and is now trying to appear to her as an image that she will recognize to try to communicate with her. But the angel, not understanding everything that it's seen, chooses a wrong image of Asuka as herself holding a doll, which maybe the angel perceives that as maybe it would have been comforting, or I don't know. Who knows what the angel was trying to do, but I believe it appeared in this form in Asuka's mind to try to communicate with her. That could be wrong. It could simply be Asuka viewing a different shade of her. But I think that because of the way the scene is, I believe that's the angel actually trying to make an official contact rather than just like viewing the contents of her mind. Especially because it kind of happens at the end of this, maybe after it had made all these psychoanalysis.
Actually, this happens right before it makes the psychoanalysis.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I said. But I think that's what that scene is meant to be. And then is that okay? Anything else we need to talk about inside of Asuka's head before we move on to the rest of the episode?
Not that I can think of right away.
Okay. So outside of Asuka's mind, we I think are probably expecting Shinji to come save the day. Obviously, if you're rewatching, you're not expecting that. But generally, when you watch this episode, Shinji is always can't come and save the day. When other pilots fail, or just even when they don't, Shinji just comes and saves the day. And he doesn't. They say, nope, one's still going to stay frozen. Gendo instead orders Rei to go get the Lance of Longinus, which is something we had seen briefly and heard talked about briefly, but now we're seeing a little bit more of it. And there's a bit of an argument between Fuyutsuki and Gendo, where Fuyutsuki's saying, like, Seilei's won't let this fly, like, you can't do that. And Gendo's like, you know what? We've got the S2 engine in Unit 1. We've got the Lance. We've got Adam. We have all the pieces we need to trigger third impact our way. Let's get it started. He doesn't say that exactly, but that's,
pretty much what he's saying, yeah.
That's what he's meaning. Gendo is ready for all of his hard work to pay off. And he's maybe trying to trigger it a little bit too soon because it doesn't really pay off for him. But so we see Rei go down into Central Dogma and approach Lilith. And it removes the lance from Lilith, which appears to have been halting Lilith's growth. As soon as the lance is removed, its legs regenerate, which the legs regenerating is also something not shown in the on-air version. But that's something just in the director's cut. So then Rei reemerges with the lance, tosses it up into the sky, kills the angel, causing the lance to be lost into space. And yeah, there you go. That's the episode. Then there's a scene of Asuka,
right.
Now reacting to everything that's happened, and obviously, I mean, hey, if Shinji would have came and saved the day, it would have been another bitter defeat for her, but instead, the fucking doll came and saved her.
Yeah.
And Asuka has essentially moved all of her hate and frustration into that one person, and that person just saved her life. That Asuka bases her entire existence and identity off of being a great Eva pilot, and the person she hates more than anything else in the world just one-upped her.
Yeah, like she said, she would have rather died than get saved by her.
Yes, so she has that feeling of like I should die at this point. Like I would have rather died, and now that happened, so I might as well die. Like and Shinji tries to come and comfort her. Shinji's still in his blissful ignorance of what's going on with Asuka. Yep. And I think he realizes, like, this shit's a little more fucked than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he says, actually.
I think so. I think that's what he said.
I think that's the quote. And then it cuts to the happiest version of "Fly Me to the Moon" ever. Which is
God, I still love that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, gimmick. I guess they do.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so good.
That dichotomy is the word you can use. I guess. I think that's using that word right. So that's pretty much the episode. Anything else we dive into? I mean, we got really into it there. So
yeah. No, I think we recovered pretty well.
I think so. I think we hit all the points we tried to make. I think maybe we skimmed by a couple of them.
Yeah.
We actually might have dived deeper into a couple of them, but whatever. That's pretty much the same podcast I think we had recorded before. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this one doesn't fuck up.
That'd be nice.
Because I'd rather die. To quote Asuka. I base my entire existence off of this podcast, so I hope nobody else comes along and makes a better Ava podcast because I won't know what to do. Anyway, so next week we're going to be watching episode 23. Obviously just because last week's didn't pan out, we're not going to have 2 podcasts this week. It'll just be this one, so I guess there was kind of a week with no podcast. Sorry about that. This one, you're probably listening to it a little bit earlier in the week because I'm trying to get it out as soon as possible to make up for it. But, sorry about that. Next week, episode 23. And, again, director's cut. Make sure you watched it, whatever. And, real quick, you know what? After we recorded the last one, as soon as we stopped recording, I said, "Oh yeah, I was going to mention this." Right. And then, what was it?
I don't remember at all.
I remember recording the last one, going, "Oh yeah, I meant to mention something," and then I didn't. And then I kept thinking, "Oh, now that we're going to re-record it, I guess I can throw that in there." But now I can't remember what it was. I can't even fathom what it would have been. Fuck. This is something else, but I did want to say, just a reminder, we're getting close to the end of the series, and after we're done with the show and end of Evangelion, we're planning to do some kind of a bigger special podcast where we talk about the show as a whole, and we have some guest people appear, and anybody can be on that if you want to. We're going to do something over probably Google Hangouts, or a similar site or app, whatever. Again, that's still several weeks away because we've still got 23, 4, 5, 6, I think 5. Oh yeah, this is what I was going to mention. I remember. I'll get to it in a second. But we've got all those episodes, and then End of Evangelion. And we might wait a week or two after the series to do the one on End of Evangelion because I think it makes sense to have a little bit of a buffer after the show before we jump into End of Eva. And also, that's going to be an exceptionally long podcast. Yep. I already know. So we'll probably, after the series ends, we'll probably take a couple weeks before we do the End of Eva one. And then after that, we'll do a podcast where we talk about the entire series. So, you're still quite a few weeks out from needing to worry about that. But you need to be letting us know if you want to be on that. Some people already have, and you don't need to re-let us know. I know. I got your names. But if you haven't messaged me or said anything and you would like to appear in some capacity on that, feel free to just let me know. And, hey, if you're worried about, like, oh, I don't want to do it because I'm just going to sound stupid, I won't know what to say. Have you listened to our podcast?
You've made it 22 episodes into our podcast. So.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you think your opinions are shitty, if you think your opinions are great, doesn't matter. If you want to be on it, if you want to get whatever you want to say about the show heard.
And we're not going to make fun of you or shit on you, so don't worry about it.
I will. But, no, yeah, I mean, we're not going to do anything like that. I think we've been in enough, like, fan groups where people have been made fun of that we know not to do that. That's really shitty. I hate when fan bases do that to each other. So, it's going to be welcoming and whatever. Like, we're not going to shit on you if you appear on it. Everybody's welcome, and everybody will feel welcome if you come. But just let us know if you want to. And even if you don't have that much to add, if you just want to come and hang out, I don't, if a ton of people message me, I'm not sure if I'll have room for everyone, but as of now, we've definitely got plenty of room. So just, let me know. The other thing I was going to say that I remembered, episodes 25 and 26. I think we're going to do that as one episode. I was planning on breaking that into 2 separate episodes of this podcast, but I just don't think it makes sense to do that the more I think about those episodes. And I personally, I'm a big fan of those episodes, so I know some people might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. You should throw that into one because they suck. Some people don't like those. I love those episodes. I think if those were the only ending and End of Evangelion didn't exist, I would feel differently. But I like them as they are. And it also kind of makes sense with our show because the first 2 episodes was one podcast. The last 2 will be one podcast. Kind of makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's what we're going to do. So just to let you know. For next week, make sure you've watched 23. Wait, did I say... I said 25 and 26, right? That's what I meant.
think so.
I might have said 24.
Okay. I was getting a little confused. Okay, so that makes sense now.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes. I think people know what I meant, even if I said it wrong. But yeah, next week, episode 23, and we will...
Director's cut version.
What?
Director's cut version.
Director's cut version. And email us if you want to say anything about the show, answer all our questions that we asked, answer all of them, or else. Next week, join us, and we'll see you then.
Bye.